So whenever someone says catechist, there's lots of assumptions about that word, and it usually begins with teaching RI in state schools. Sometimes when you say catechist, people think you mean that. Pope Francis tends to have an idea of catechist that is more around leading communities that might not have a priest in more remote regions, and talks about the possibility of priests coming through once a month and catechists continuing the ministry of that community. And so I thought before we get into anything about catechesis and the ministry of catechist, let's just define our term. Now, the catechism is always a great place to start, and it basically talks about catechesis as handing on the faith. Just handing on the faith. And that makes catechesis really simple, right? It means that if you're baptised, you're a catechist. It means that you and I, whatever role that you're in, if you're baptised, you have a role to play in catechesis. There's no baptised person that is not in some way a catechist. Now, there is, of course, the instituted ministry of catechist, and Pope Francis has made an emphasis on that in recent years, and in Brisbane we've been working through a formation phase so that we've got formation for lectors, acolytes and catechists. But if you think about instituted catechists as opposed to the Baptist, the charism of catechist that all of us receive, it can be likened a little bit to the ministerial priesthood compared with the priesthood of all believers. Does that make sense? So the priesthood of all believers means that all of us are mediators of grace to this world. Every one of us is a mediator of grace. The priest has a particular role and a particular kind of grace that is bestowed through the sacraments, and that's the role of the ministerial priesthood. So in the same way, you have the instituted catechist, where the church formally recognises a person who is called to that ministry of catechesis, but all of us are called to hand on the faith. You with me on that? Give me a bit of noise, please. You with me on that? Hello, all right. Yeah. Come on. So, all the catechists, all the baptised are catechists and therefore agents of evangelisation. Now, the catechism also talks about elements of catechesis, and this is where you see the breadth of what catechesis means. So it gives you 5 points, right? The initial proclamation of the gospel or missionary preaching to arouse faith. Missionary preaching to arouse faith. That's part of the role. That's the first thing for a catechist, and for any ordained clergy here that are preaching. If our preaching is not arousing faith, there's something wrong with it. All right? So that's the first thing, and all of us are called to that proclamation of the gospel. The second is the examination of the reasons for belief. Why do we believe what we believe? The third thing is the experience of Christian living. What does it mean to follow Jesus, to be his disciple, and to live in a community of believers? Then it's the celebration of the sacraments. So part of Christian life is to celebrate the sacraments. And then it's the integration into the ecclesial community, an apostolic and missionary witness. So it's being part of the church, the life of the local parish. Now this, of course, assumes that the community and the local parish is a nourishing experience. And one of our great challenges for evangelisation, and the challenge of the catechist, is you might be a great witness and you might be able to share your faith powerfully, but do you have a community of believers that you can bring people into? Has anyone had that challenge before? Or is it just me? Yeah, so the local church is a crucial agent in evangelisation, and we have to honestly look at whether or not what's happening in our parishes is nourishing to those who come. And if it's not, we've got work to do. So when we talk about the catechist then, and what I'm talking about today is not limited to state school RI or teaching in a school context, it's handing on the faith in any way that you do it. Is that right? So the two questions I'm going to answer for us today, and then you're going to have a discussion about, I'm going to make comments on. The first one is this: what are new ways we can encourage missionary disciples to share the kerygma in their daily lives in the world? So how can we be more effective catechists? We heard Archbishop Prowse yesterday share the story of how he prayed for the taxi driver. You remember that? The first thing I'd say about new ways to make catechesis take place is, guys, it's really simple. It is not rocket science, right? The first question we have to ask ourselves as Catholics is, do we love people? How much do we love people? Do we actually love the people around us, you know? I think about, I mountain bike with my sons quite regularly. And there's a community of guys, they do coaching, and so we're out on Saturdays and Tuesday afternoons and we're on our bikes. Now, if I don't go to mountain biking, to ride check coaching for 4 weeks, I'll have more than one dad going, hey man, what's going on? I haven't seen you for a while. If I don't go to my local parish for a month, I'm unlikely to hear a thing. And what that tells me is that my local mountain bike community love me more than my local parish. Right? Here we are going, we've got to do evangelisation. Well, it's got to start by loving people. We need to love people. Oh, there's no youth here. Well, do we love youth? Do we love them enough that if they come in and break a window, we're okay with that, Do we love children enough that if they come into our parish and make noise, we're okay with that? We will get what we love. And I think if we're really honest with ourselves, our communities give a pretty, sobering illumination of what it is that we truly love. Is that right? So I hope that challenges us in a positive way and doesn't come across just as a left hook. But really, do we love people? So in that light, catechesis is really simple, right? If you love people, you hang out with them, you get to know them, and it's easy then to talk to people about their lives and their faith. When I was a young fella, I was playing gigs full time, like parties, clubs, weddings, functions, anything. And I'd be down at the local pub and I'd be playing gigs, and we'd get to the end of our set and we'd play a song that was sort of one of those crossover songs, it's like half Christian, like Oh Happy Day or Amazing Grace or whatever. There's something pretty funny about watching people half cut sing Oh Happy Day. Especially when it gets to when Jesus washed my sins away, and they sing and then they sort of go a bit quiet. But the point being, you're out there, you're in amongst the people, and we would just say, look, we're a Christian band. If you want to talk to us about Jesus Christ, come and see us. And most of us would think that's really out there. It's really not. I have to say my own experience in the last 10 years being Catholic is Catholics are scarier than secular people. You get more flack from Catholics than you will in public. We talk about the culture wars. I'd suggest that the culture in our church is more problematic for our church than the culture out there. And the reason I say that is because I want to embolden us to say, if you engage the people in your life with faith that don't have faith, they're usually open to it, they're rarely offended to it, and they actually welcome a conversation with religion. That's been my experience. Inside the church, you share an opinion on how to receive communion or what song you might like to sing. Beware. Beware. So don't be fearful of sharing your faith. Just make it simple. So in doing that, in years gone by in the pubs, I can think of 2 examples, right? And I'll just give you one. This one fella rolled up and he turned out to have the same motorcycle as my sister, both Suzuki SV 650. So we got chatting. He's same bike, So we got his number and we went on a few motorbike rides and stuff with him. We just started hanging out because we had the same interest. So what are you guys always on about? So we start talking to him about faith, and 6 months later he gets baptised, and now 20 years later he's still walking with Christ. He's still going actively participating in his church. And so that's really simple catechesis, right? It's just being yourself, finding out your passion, getting to know people, loving people, and being willing to have the conversations and ask the questions. So right now for you, who are the friends most likely to be open to a conversation about faith? Who are the friends that you have in your life? We've spent most of our time so far thinking about what our parishes can do and what they can do and who should be formed in what. What about me personally, right? So right now, for you personally, who is in your life that you could, who's not practicing their faith right now, that you could actually share your faith with? You might think, well, that sounds like you're going to push religion on them. You don't have to push it. You just got to ask them questions. What's your experience of church? What are your thoughts on the God question? Do you think there is a God? Just open the conversation up by asking questions. And as we do that, the conversation comes forward. It'll eventually come back to, well, what do you think? You're pretty religious, aren't you? Yes, I am. As a matter of fact. So, the first thing, how can we do it, is just make it simple. Accompany. Invite people for coffee. Ask them questions. How's life going? What's your take on the God question? Just make it simple and do what Archbishop Prowse did. And if stuff's going on in their life, offer prayer. We're just so often fearful of response. And so the first thing I would say to answer that first question is, what are the new ways we can do? Just make it simple. Anyone can catechise. Wherever you are, find the people in your life, love them, ask them questions about faith, open the conversation about what it means to find meaning in life. One little point I want to make is we talk about discernment a lot and about solitude and about what is God saying. We don't need to discern the things that God has already told us to do. Is that all right? I'll say that again. We don't need to discern the things that God has already told us to do. So when Jesus says, go and make disciples of all nations, we don't have to discern that again, guys. All right? We just crack on with it, okay? It's time to go. Jesus said go, let's go, all right? Yep. Just stop talking about it, let's go, right? Who's in your life? Who can you witness to? Who's in your parish you can inspire and empower to share the message of life with? So that's question one. The second question is, how can we encourage the growth of the ministry of catechists in Australia? Now, if a catechist is someone who just hands on the faith, really what we're saying is, how do we get our parishes to become evangelising communities, right? How do we help all the baptised to see that they're called to share the life and love of God? I would speculate that one of the biggest problems that we have in our communities is that we disempower rather than empower people for mission. And what I mean by that is we put up so many hurdles, right? You've got to do this and do this and do this and do this, and then even then we're not sure whether you're ready to be a catechist. Anyone felt like that before? Is it just me who notices that, or there's a few hands going up? Yeah. So it's like, am I good enough? Do I know enough? And so if we want more catechists, we've got to start recognising that the most effective catechists are often ones that are not even finished their own journey into the church. So catechists can begin before they're even baptised, right? I'll give a really current example. Has anyone followed Russell Brand's conversion to Christianity, right? He's been like posting it all over Instagram. He's this famous actor. He's got a big following. He's pretty out there. He's lived a very hedonistic life, to use his own terms, right? And he's been journeying into faith. And he is catechising his whole community, right? And even before he's baptised, he's like, I found this book called Mere Christianity, and it says this, and it's amazing. It's changing the way that I think. And then he's like, oh, my friend gave me this rosary, and you can pray it like this. And it's like, what do you guys think? You know, he's catechising because he's excited. And so rather than waiting and saying, oh, no, you can't go and talk to people about your faith until you really understand it and you've finished your initiation rites, go, share it. That's when they're passionate about it, right? It's when people are most excited for faith. The only thing you need to do to be able to catechise someone else is be 2 hours ahead of them. Well, I read this book today, or I read 3 pages of this book. You should check it out, right? Does that make sense? And so switching our model from a kind of a permission, are you ready model to no, go. You're a page ahead. Great, share it, you know. I think my own journey into the Catholic Church, you know, a bit over 10 years ago now, I was the most proactive in sharing Catholic truths with Protestants in the 18 months before I became Catholic, right? That's when, because I was discovering all these things. Oh, do you know this? Do you know what Catholics actually understand about purgatory? Did you know that they actually don't worship Mary? Do you know that the Pope can't just say anything that he wants and it's the truth? You know, I was discovering all these things that I learnt wrong as a Protestant, and so I was sharing those, right? And so the point being, let's not wait, let's empower. You know, if you're in the church, you've had an encounter with Jesus, you are ready to share that with someone else. You don't know everything, right? And if you get a question that you don't know the answer to, you just go, hey, I'm not sure about that, let's check it out, you know, and grab the catechism, grab the scripture, ask your local priest, do some research. So empower for mission. The catechist only needs to be 1 page ahead of the person they're catechising. So that would be my simplest answer. There was a book years ago in the Protestant world called Wiki Church. Has anyone heard of that? Wiki Church. And the concept is, in a wiki, it's like a self-regulated thing, right? Because people correct it. Someone puts up a wiki, and if someone else has further information, they add to it, okay? And the idea is that everyone can contribute to the discipleship of anyone. And in the wiki model, it sort of self-corrects. Right, so rather than holding everyone back and I'm not sure if you're ready, Jesus says go, let's support them, let's encourage them, let's back them, let's pray with them, let's empower them and encourage them. So conclusion then, catechesis is simply handing on faith. All the baptised are catechists. All of us are agents of evangelisation. New ways of catechesis can be found simply through simplicity. Make it simple. Just pray for someone. Just ask them how they're going with their faith, with their life, what's going on for them. We can encourage the growth of catechesis in our churches by empowering all the faithful to step into God's given calling and just make it simple. Hey, you know Jesus, you've got something to share. You can share your faith today. I want to challenge all of us in this room, right? This is like a little uncomfortable challenge, and I won't get to talk to you again tomorrow, so whether you do this or not is up to you. But in the next 24 hours, I challenge you to think about, is there a single chance in the next 24 hours that I will have, whether it's here or walking to my train or travelling on the plane, to share with someone what Jesus means to you? And if you want to do that personally, just pray and say, God, I'd love to do that. Open up the door, provide an opportunity. And I would love to hear back if anyone actually follows through on that and tries, to hear what happens. Because my own experience is that 9 out of 10 times when I am switched on to sharing faith, opportunity arises. Finally, our faith is caught, not taught. C.S. Lewis referred to it as the good infection. So we need to be baptised and have a personal encounter with Jesus Christ that actually transforms our lives, right? We all saw the spread of COVID in 2020, and we can see the spread of Christianity in the same way if we can get the masks off our face, start sharing the good infection, the reason for the hope that we have within us. So the last thing as we wrap that up is, we are not promoting a philosophy. We're not promoting a collection of doctrines. We are promoting a relationship with a person. And so at the heart of the catechist's mission is not, do you know these things? It's, would you like to meet this person? This person has changed my life. This person can change your life. The name is Jesus. I'd love you to introduce him. That is catechesis. Thanks, Clara.